Hey people, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And
this
this
is
is
season
season
4
4
of
of
Pero Let Me Tell You. It's true.
What? Que se va el año.
Yeah.
Dude, it's the 4th of July this weekend. Next week, Home Depot's going to have Christmas stuff up.
Oh, closer to my birthday.
Oh, yes. Are we recording?
We're recording.
Well, welcome to episode
I love that. The hand thing, you're trying to pull it out of me. 163.
163. You know, it's so funny that for like 140 episodes,
You
I
were
was
on
so
it.
like on the ball.
You even knew the halves and the bonuses.
Yes. But now I'm like, you could tell me it's episode 1500 and I'll be like, sure, wow, it's been a while.
That's what I'm going to tell you next time. I'm literally just going to be like, it's episode 2006. We're never doing a rinse and repeat.
Never. Never. Oh my god. Excuse me. Welcome to Pero Let Me Tell You, everybody.
no.
I'm so welcoming that I'm yawning.
You need a little café la llave.
I need a little café la llave. I'll pretend to be a coffee drinker. That's something I've struggled with my entire life. Welcome everybody to Pero Let Me Tell You, episode 163.
I literally just said it.
How is everybody? Happy Friday. Happy long weekend.
Yes.
This is
I think it's Memorial was the first.
yeah. There's something I've always struggled with. The fact that I don't drink coffee.
Like you quiere pero no quiere. Like you don't like it in general.
Mira, I like the thought of coffee.
Right.
Especially like that coffee is something that you have.
It's like the social.
Right, that you could sit down in a coffee house and have a latte or whatever the hell you have. And drink coffee and just be merry.
Right.
But I don't drink coffee. I don't like any coffee. And the thing is, the good thing about me is I don't discriminate. Excuse me. I don't like Cuban coffee. I don't like, espresso. I don't like American coffee. I don't like any coffee.
That's true. That totally reminded me of this.
And I think coffee smells good.
Yeah, you like everything about coffee except the actual drinking of it.
Yes. And for those listeners who have been with us since the very beginning, if you recall, in our first season,
that's right,
we had the Colada boys with us, and I drank it was the first time I ever drank Cuban coffee.
Yep.
Can you believe that was the first time I had ever drunk Cuban, the first and only.
Yes, that's true.
That ever drank Cuban coffee.
That's true.
When I was in law school, that I would be in the library until, I don't know, like 5 a.m. Like I would leave the library when people are like waking up to go to.
It's like, so bright and early.
Yeah, and the library, the snack bar eventually closed, right?
Oh well, yeah. By 5 o'clock, it's not there. Yeah,
but they would leave out like those coffee things that you could,
Oh, like the thermoses.
Yeah, the big huge thermoses. So like, I don't know. Sometimes it'd be like 2 something in the morning, 3 in the morning, and I still had some studying to do. And I couldn't get Red Bull or anything like that because I was in the library and it was so late. So I would just like get like a cup of black coffee, and then I would
sniff it.
I would close my nose, like hold my nose shut, and then I just chug it.
I mean, that's actually how I drink my coffee now. Black.
Oh my god! Like,
I've become a black coffee
my
drinker.
Biggest problem
in my old age
with coffee is I don't like anything with an aftertaste. Just in general. In terms of food and beverage.
Well, that's why. You also don't like diet sodas for that reason. Yeah.
I don't like anything with an aftertaste, and especially Cuban coffee. From what I hear, that's one of the things that people like. El gustico que se te queda en la boca.
Of course, that's the most delicious part.
I'm like, no. I'm the weird person that like still buys yellow Listerine.
You don't buy the minty one?
I have the minty one now because the last time that I went to buy it, I couldn't find the original. So I'm like, damn it.
Pero el amarillo sabe al mismo rayo.
I love it.
Ugh.
The yellow Listerine.
Ugh, I'm going to get you some Beverly.
Is it? So I don't drink Cuban coffee, but I gargle yellow Listerine.
Gargle yellow Listerine. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Sometimes, like I remember a few years ago, I went when Ariana Grande came out with that cloud bullshit.
I remember you went and got the Ariana.
You remember when I got it?
Yeah.
And I stood in line at Starbucks because that day, like, I think everybody decided to go to Starbucks. And I'm like, do people generally, because I don't really do Starbucks runs.
Why would
and I'm
you?
like, so do Starbucks people, like, do they generally wait 20, 30 minutes for a coffee, like, which they don't.
No,
they don't.
no.
But I don't know what was happening that day.
What was that unicorn drink
I
thing?
remember when they gave it to me, like, oh, this is gross. It's like,
But it was all sugar.
it was like 90% a frothy cream, and then the 10% like coffee. But to me, even like the little coffee that I had was just way too much.
It just looked like un postre. To me.
But then again, my favorite dessert in the world is like tiramisu.
Which is, it's coffee based.
Yes, but you know, when you put a chunk of mascarpone, you know,
Things change.
yeah, things change. So yeah,
change.
everybody, I'm such a pathetic person. I don't drink any coffee. I feel like coffee is like such a cool thing to do.
I don't even think it's cool. I think it's just a norm now.
Like when I see, especially maybe not so much here in Miami, but like up north, these like really nice coffee houses.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go and have like the stupid juice.
Oh yeah, there was one in Queens that I really liked. The Red Pipe Cafe.
I'll go and have this overpriced scone because I'm not gonna have anything
And
else.
scones are so dry. Oh my god, the British tea and scones. Oh,
Like the only thing that I sort of will have, and it does have coffee in it, is like a frappuccino. But I
but
like,
again, that's más como un postre.
but I like the
That's-
caramel frappuccino.
right.
And then one day I saw the nutrition facts, and I was like, oh
Never.
my gosh.
No. You never look at the nutrition facts of anything at a Starbucks.
Right, no, but even the one at McDonald's is actually very tasty. The caramel frap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it has like I don't know 500 calories because
Yeah.
it's like pure sugar.
You might as well just look at something on the menu of the Cheesecake Factory.
Oh my god! I remember. You remember we used to go a lot to the Cheesecake
We
Factory.
did used to go a lot.
Then I remember I would kid around. I'm like, oh my god, can you imagine if they put the nutrition facts on the menu?
And they did.
They did, and that
I mean,
shrimp bistro pasta has like 2,000 calories.
I mean,
like
right.
one serving.
it hasn't changed anything. I'm still gonna order what I want to order. But to
When
know
I go to the Cheesecake Factory, I easily have like I don't know
10,000 calories.
easily 5,000 easily.
The cheesecake alone is a good 1,000.
Yeah, easily. Between me, you know what my staple at the Cheesecake Factory is.
The pumpernickel bread
With-
with the blue cheese.
Yeah, the blue cheese dressing. It's funny because when I get there, so listeners, I love blue cheese. I make this.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. He is the reason that blue cheese is an option with your bread now.
Yes, it is. It is.
It is.
It is. I dare say there's nobody in this world that loves blue cheese as much as I do. More than I do. There may be people that like it as much
Yes,
as
yes,
I do,
yes.
but
not
more.
Not more. Yes. I would
Not
agree.
more.
I would
Because
agree.
I'm sort of obsessed with blue cheese.
It's a little scary.
Yeah, like I could have blue cheese anyway.
It's a little scary. I'm surprised.
Except
that,
with my coffee.
except with coffee. I go, who wants blue cheese with coffee? That's so gross. ¿Te imaginas un trozo de blue cheese con una taza de café? Delicious. Said no one ever.
I've been given as presents blocks of blue cheese and blue cheese dressing. Wait, let's move on from this conversation.
I will say I love when you get as a gift like a bottle of whiskey or something because it's just gonna go to me.
Oh
It,
my!
it stays
Okay,
here.
okay,
It stays
so-
here.
so-
but it becomes my bottle whenever I come over.
So here's a funny story. So, for some reason, a lot of people give like attorneys or like attorneys' offices as a gift. They give them liquor.
yeah, it's normal.
Una botella.
Una botella.
They
Yeah.
even gave me a bottle of Blue Label one time.
I know.
And a lot of you probably don't know this, but I don't drink.
Right.
I really don't drink. And I love that. You have all these people like Doctor Mira, le traigo un whiskey, una vodka. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I'm like,
Listen, don't ruin it for me.
yeah. I'm like,
Don't ruin it for
there
me.
was a year that
There's always a great selection
another
here.
attorney's office that we work with, they sent us this like this crate, wooden crate. They sent each
They
one
sent you
of
the
us
crate, not the barrel.
They sent each one of us a crate of wine.
Oh,
It had like
nice.
6 wines inside. And my freaking assistant took it. Like she took it home. And I'm like, I could have given that to people. Like you
That
don't
was like
know.
6 gifts that you could have given.
Yeah, like you don't know. But anyway, yeah, they give you all this liquor and I'm like,
Don't ruin it for me.
yeah. I've become very self-conscious about saying I don't drink.
Really?
Yeah, because usually when you say I don't drink, people think you had a drinking problem.
They want to see the chip on your keychain. They're like, oh my God, how many months?
Especially when you're a guy, you say, "Oh,
Yeah,
I don't
it's a
really
little-
drink."
yeah.
People are like, "Well, why don't you drink?" And it's like, "Because I don't drink." And it's like, "Oh, did you have a drinking problem?" I'm like, "No." I'm like,
It's almost just easier to say yes. Because if you say yes, nobody's going to follow
right.
up.
Nobody's gonna follow up. They're
Right.
like, oh,
Right. The minute that you say, like, I'd rather not talk about it, they're kind of, oh, okay. And just let them assume and walk away.
and that's another thing. You see, I don't drink coffee and I don't drink.
Oh, you're like that Adam Ant song.
Right. No, that's another thing. I wish I could at least be a social drinker.
Right.
Because there's a certain cachet to it.
Right. Like if you're out for happy hour.
But I really
right.
don't. But as you saw in New York, I could hold my liquor like an Irishman.
It's true. I'm pretty sure you're not. Maybe that's why you don't like. No, because the Irish like coffee too. Never mind.
Anyway, bueno. Let's move on to other subjects. So,
Can we talk about the elephant in the room? They freed the wrong bee person.
what?
Well, I mean, we're all talking about free Britney, but instead they freed Bill Cosby.
Oh, I was like, what? Yes. Viste eso?
Yes.
Yes.
I actually, you'd be very proud of me. I kind of explained it to Jose yesterday.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
I'm sure I got it kind of wrong, but I think the gist of it I got correct.
So, as many of you probably out there may know, Bill Cosby this week was released. He had served about 3 years.
He was sentenced to 3 to 10. I think he served 2 because he went
Right.
to jail 20. No, yeah,
Yeah,
2018.
two to
so,
3 years.
Yeah.
And he had his conviction overturned on a technicality, and a lot of people are like, "What the hell?" So this is a really hard thing to talk about because, okay, coming from a legal perspective and somebody who studied the law,
Right. You get it.
it's not only that I get it, but the thing. I don't know if this is exclusive to people that studied law, but the thing is that when you approach the law, you have to approach it rationally. And you have to
objectively.
take your feelings out of it and the greater purpose or the greater,
The application to
the
everyone.
application, exactly,
Right.
out of it.
Right.
And Bill Cosby, and we've talked about it here on the show
Yes,
in
we have.
previous episodes. I think that with this whole Me Too movement and all like the different men that have come out with these shady pasts, I think that Bill Cosby for me was the one that hurt the most.
Yeah.
Because
Harvey Weinstein, I didn't care about. R.
but
Kelly,
Bill Cosby
we knew.
was such a big part of our lives growing up. Like the Cosby Show
And
was
a positive.
exactly. He had such a clean cut image, and it was one that I felt that I really need to reconcile, like who he was, like his legacy in terms of his show and who he was. Like
It's complicated for us.
it's complicated, yeah, because the Cosby Show was a huge part of our lives growing up, and not only the Cosby Show, just Bill Cosby was a very famous and very
Jello,
lovable
the
person.
whole Jello thing,
and he gave you all good feelings and vibes, and little did we know that, and I have to say when the first couple of women came out, I was kind of in denial about it. I'm like, no, they can't be talking
was the
about
70s.
Dr. Huxtable,
Right, right.
But then when it's like, wait, 3, 4, 5, 6, wait,
30.
okay,
Yeah.
no, like there's something
where
here.
there's smoke, there's fire.
So basically what happened was he was convicted in 2018 over a incident that happened in 2004.
And this was the only possible opportunity they had because of statute of
Right.
limitations.
Yeah. Look at you, counsel. Over an incident that happened with
You know about my SVU degree?
yes, with a woman who said that he abused her, and yes, you're right. It was the only case that they could go after in terms of the statute of limitations, because in other cases it had already expired. So they tried him and he was convicted. The problem is that he was also being sued civilly on a similar matter. Now,
Prior to this conviction.
just to have a law 101, you can be sued civilly or criminally,
Which is
civilly,
why OJ was found guilty and not guilty.
Right. Civilly is when one person sues another person. Criminally is when it's a criminal charge, being the state, or if it's capital, it could be the United States.
Right. Yeah, civil's like if you go to caso cerrado.
Yeah. La doctora Ana Maria Polo will have a thing to say in a civil case. So he was being tried. He was in a civil case that they had previously sued him on. He had given certain testimony, and the prosecutor in that, not prosecutor, but and the attorney in that case told him that if he testified, this is in the civil case,
deposed,
if he was deposed, if he was testified, they will not bring criminal charges against him. So what happened was that Bill Cosby went ahead and testified, and he said, he
gave incriminating statements.
He did admit to having used Quaaludes?
Yeah.
Quaaludes. So in other words, he drugged up women to take advantage of them. He did admit to that on the record. So what happened was that sometime later, when that attorney that told him, hey, you could testify in the civil case that we promised we're not going to bring charges up against you, when he left the prosecutor's office and a new team of prosecutors came in, they had this deposition where Bill Cosby had admitted to all this stuff in a civil case. Right. So then they brought a criminal case against him. Now, here is the part that may piss off people with what I'm about to say. This is the law part.
Right.
In terms of saving the sanctity of the criminal justice system,
such as it is,
you have to, you can't do what was done in this case, because people have the right, they have a Fifth Amendment right, against self-incrimination.
Right.
So that's why many times when you see somebody who is being tried criminally, they take the stand. They plead the Fifth, or they just don't take the stand altogether. Right? You have a Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate yourself. And the problem in this case, procedurally, we're talking about procedure.
Just letter of the law.
Take away your emotions from it. Take away what it means. Just the letter of the law and the procedure of the law. You have due process rights. And the problem is that if, in fact, what happened in this case, which did happen, that a prosecutor tells you, hey, go ahead and testify that, we are not going to bring charges up against you, they are violating your due process. And that is a really big no-no. No matter who you are, no matter how despicable the crime is, no matter how terrible it is, that's a really big no-no. Because as I always say, in order for justice to work, it has to work for everybody, even the guilty, right? And yes, it pains me to say that Bill Cosby is a pervert and should definitely either be in jail or pay for what he did somehow.
Right.
But the problem is that these technicalities, yes, Bill Cosby's rich and powerful, but when this starts affecting, can you imagine if you are a lay person, a Joe Schmo, maybe you can't afford the best attorney, maybe you can't afford an attorney at all, and something like this happens to you, that you're testifying in a civil case and they use it against you. They're using your own words
after telling you
they wouldn't against you. Right. So that is a violation of your due process, and it is a violation of the Fifth Amendment right to your right against self-incrimination.
Why was that not tossed out to begin with in terms of evidence? Because obviously when the prosecution has to mount a case, they have to present all evidence to the defense,
right?
And the defense at that point has the opportunity to go and
that's a good question,
and say, look, this is fruit of the poison tree or whatever.
That's a good question. Wow, you have been watching a lot of SVU, because that fruit of the poisonous tree, that's a strict law school, Ahorita we're gonna talk about fee simple, with the possibility of reverter. Man, if you're listening and you know what that means,
I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
so
that's a property law.
Oh, that's not on SVU. Nobody bothers with property on SVU.
In SVU, do they do a lot of issues with standing? Like you have standing to bring a case, or you don't?
Yes, they do.
Yes, because standing is such a big one. especially in criminal law. But anyway, that's a good question. I don't know if during the original trial,
Right.
Bill Cosby's defense attorneys did some type of motion to strike that.
Right. Strike that.
That's actually a very good question. As I said, maybe
because this is not even a backroom deal. This is something that I think the original DA even had a press conference. So there's public record of this being said.
No, there's no doubt.
There's no doubt that it was said. So
this.
It's not even a he said.
I don't know. Maybe they did procedurally in the first trial. But the point is that whether they did or they didn't, clearly they allowed the evidence in.
Right.
So they let his testimony from the civil trial in. So so that's why on appeals they went ahead and did it. So, it's one of these things that like sometimes the bad guys get away, but this is a hard thing to talk about because again, the procedure and the letter of the law, I hate to say it, I think it's the correct thing.
Well, you can't just have people go willy-nilly and be like, I'm not going to charge you, and then, tricked you. Like, who wins in that case?
Because I always think about, the rich and powerful are the rich and powerful. And
let's
always,
remove them out of it.
They're always going to be. But I always think, how does this precedent affect Joe Schmo? Right?
Who can't afford a fancy lawyer.
Because if you have prosecutors telling you one thing in your face and doing something else behind your back, that's a big problem.
Right.
Because you're talking about your due process, which is one of the most elemental parts of your rights as a person, in the Constitution. So that was a big one. But so I wanted to talk about also another pretty awful subject. It's really at least here in South Florida in the last week or so, it's just been so difficult with the whole thing with the building collapse. I mean, it's one of these things that the moment I feel that in my day or in my personal life that for some reason I crack a smile over something, I then revert to like thinking about that, the tragedy that this is in just so many levels.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody earlier this week regarding, that whole situation, and I heard someone say that, when all this is over, people are going to get so much money out of this, and especially like the people who lost.
Who were displaced.
Who were just the people, the part of the tower that didn't collapse.
Right,
like
but
the people
they
just lost
live
their
there.
apartment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is so garbage people talk that it has no validity. La mierda que la gente habla.
Sí, no, porque azúcar van a meter.
El dinero van a coger. Yeah, if you're dead, you're dead.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Say that to the people who lost their families.
Right.
Or to the dead people, yeah. But actually, that's not going to be probably what happens. This is going to be, this is a horrible tragedy, and it's going to be an even probably bigger tragedy in terms of the financial and lawsuit aspect. So here's the problem. I'm going by what we know on the news.
Right, which could change literally by the time we're done.
Up to now, it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been officially, yeah.
Up to now, it appears, again, maybe tomorrow, it's a different story. But it appears that the building may have collapsed due to improper maintenance.
Okay.
Right? More and more, there's documents that are coming out, minutes from meetings,
yes, it was an
engineering reports, so on and so forth, that the building was unsafe, that the building needed all this work, that there were chunks of concrete falling and, rebar that was exposed, because the problem is that rebar, when it's exposed, it becomes brittle, especially if it's near the ocean,
seawater,
as they were. And so all these things are coming out, right? And there's even, I think there's some emails that came out that apparently the board, the Homeowners Association board, as recently as like April, was trying to like put a special assessment on the residents.
Okay.
But the residents didn't want, like, who knows what really happened at this point. But it seems that regardless how it happened,
It was a maintenance issue.
It was a maintenance issue. You know, whether
As of right now.
they were trying to do something about it or not, it appears as of right now that it was a maintenance issue. The problem with that is that if it's a maintenance issue where the building was on notice of the deficiencies and the defects and the consequences, and it's been like 2.5, 3 years, because that famous report,
So 2018?
It's 2018. So it's been well over 2.5 years since they did that report. If the building, they knew about this, they are on notice of the condition of the building. They being the building. And if they were on notice, of that dangerous condition and they did nothing about it, that is probably enough for the insurance company to void their policy and deny a claim.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's still a lot to be seen. You know, we don't know, like, because you have all these engineers like giving all these opinions, and I'm like, I did a little bit of construction.
I think first they need to just finish.
Yeah, I did a little bit of construction litigation back in the day, and construction litigation is very, very complicated because there's just, you know, in a construction or in anything having to do with like a building, there's just so many people. There's like the engineer and
that's true.
It's like the architect, the engineer, the, you know, contractor, the subcontractors, there's just so, you know, the inspector. There's so many people that go around a building or a structure, but that is enough probably to void an insurance policy. Or to deny a claim. And if the insurance company of the HOA or the insurance company of that building denies or voids that policy, wow. Because there's 3 types of claims potentially just off the bat they could file there. They could file, obviously, for the people that passed away, their estates and you know, their family members could file a wrongful death action for the people who died. The people who survived or whose apartments didn't collapse probably could file some type of claim of negligent infliction of emotional distress. Right? And then, aside from that, there's actually the property damage claims.
Right.
Because all these people lost their homes.
Well, I think there was talk that they're going to have to like demolish
the
rest of the building.
They all lost their homes.
So,
right, their homes and their property,
their possessions. Yeah,
you know, their possessions, as you said. So you're talking here about hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, this is not a $20,000 claim.
Do you think? I mean, and again, insurance companies.
Do I think the insurance company will be
given the attention of this? You don't think that they will void?
No.
You think they'll pay it out and call it a day, or
no?
Oh, you don't think they'll pay it out? Oh, okay.
What is your question? Is do I think an insurance company, out of the kindness of their heart,
not out of the kindness
being
of their
that
heart,
this is such a tragedy,
right?
Being it's such a tragedy, the whole world is happening, and it's compelled everybody. And you know, they found 2 little dead children yesterday. That the insurance company would take the high road and do the moral
and just go ahead and pay it out.
And pay it out? Of course not. Like,
okay, answers that question. Thanks.
Of course not. Listen, I had
any loophole they can find. They're going to take.
This was. When I worked in big law, I may have told you about this story, but listeners, now you're going to hear it. When I worked big law, I had a case where I defended an insurance company. Okay? And the facts of this case were that there was someone who was mentally ill. Okay. And this person had even been institutionalized.
Okay, so track record,
institutionalized documentation. Okay. Right. This person doused themselves in gas and set themselves on fire in their house in front of their spouse, their child, and their father. Jiminy. And the house burned to the ground. Right? And it was this horrible thing. So this person obviously committed suicide. It was this horrible thing that then like it was one of these things that then like the widowed spouse lost their job, and like
Todo se complicó.
they ended up in like an efficiency, like they lost everything, and the poor kid saw their parent burning, and like the person who committed suicide, like their father was also there. It was just as awful as you can imagine, right? The insurance company denied so they obviously filed a property damage claim to
for the house, right?
for the house and its contents and all that stuff. The insurance company denied the claim because they said it was an intentional fire.
Wow.
But stuff like that happens all the time. Like that's why I think it's cute that you just might think that that
I still hold out some type of hope that there's positivity.
No. I quickly, when I worked big law, I quickly realized I was on the wrong side. I was like, defending a corporation, like,
how did I get here?
I mean, I know we all got to take a job, but I was like, I'm on the wrong side.
We all got to take jobs we can live with.
Yeah. No, but you know what? Like, there's some jobs that you can do.
Everybody's different.
There's some jobs that look. There's so much insurance fraud, especially here in Florida, left and right. I mean, one of my personal, again, when I defended insurance companies, one of my personal favorites was like when people would be like, I was walking around with a hammer. As one does,
yes.
In my house, and in the middle of the living room, the hammer fell and it broke the tile. So now I have to have my entire house retiled because the tile that it broke, they no longer make. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a special kind of person.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, but that was like all the time. And then, then there's the classic, people that would set their kitchens on fire.
Oh, yeah. So we do
but they know that right away. Like, right away.
They can tell.
They can tell right away. Like, it's like, you use an accelerant.
Damn it, they're on to me.
But yeah, no, this situation with the whole condo collapse and in terms of the legal ramifications, I'm talking about the legal ramifications in terms of the lawsuits that are going to be filed. Oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible, and it's going to take years because then the other option, if the insurance company doesn't pay out, is to sue the HOA board. But no HOA board has that type of money.
Yeah, really,
because you're talking about millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. No HOA has that amount of money, and they'll file for bankruptcy. So it's just a terrible situation all around. Look, it's been a week, and I always try to be hopeful. Miracles can happen, but
the longer time passes,
and just the agony that these families are going through, because be that it's one of those things that like. You're always going to have at least a little glimmer of hope. So I don't know. That tragedy has like really affected me, and it's affected so many people because it's one of these like freak situations that
it could literally happen to anybody.
It's like if you're not safe in your home, like where are you safe?
Yeah. At 2 a.m. Yeah. Where are you safe? Yeah.
So it's like wow. Anyway, wow.
Well,
can we talk about something like light and fun and like? Wait. We have our pop-up this week.
That's right, we do. Well, it's today. If you're listening to us on Friday,
yes, our pop-up is today,
July 2nd. If you're listening to us, we're gonna be at Union Beer. Come on out, start the 4th of July long weekend with a bang with us.
Yes,
that sounds
quick.
Inappropriate.
How many years is the U.S. turning?
Wait, 1776.
245.
I don't do math.
You don't have to do math. You should know that our country is 245 years old.
Why would I know that?
Because you're an American.
It's like I know when people's birthdays are. I don't know their ages all the time.
Who wrote the Declaration of Independence?
That was Thomas Jefferson.
Yes.
But he wrote it with somebody else. No?
No,
Just him by himself?
no. We were thinking about is the Constitution.
Oh, okay.
The Constitution was written by several people.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever seen the founding documents at the archives
I don't think
in
so.
Washington? I have to tell you that when you go into the National Archives, you see the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Emancipation Proclamation. You are taken aback.
It's impresionante.
Yeah, because it's like, oh my
It's
God,
the start of it all.
It's the Constitution.
I'm glad that somebody had the foresight to save that back then.
To save it.
Well, yeah, because they could have very easily just been like, "Oh, just put it in the corner over there," and it caught fire or something, like
Along with everything else in the White House.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like it very easily could have been lost to time if you really stop and think about it.
And I guess this is something, if we could talk to our listeners, I would love to know. Do you like American history? Like, honestly, do you like it?
Like, do I enjoy
Reading about it, studying it?
I find it interesting. I don't necessarily think that I seek it out, but I am interested in learning about it. Like if somebody starts to tell me like, oh, this happened and da da, I don't just like whatever. Like I genuinely find it interesting.
I've always I love all history in general, but I've always loved American history. And when I was a kid, I memorized like all the presidents, right? And even now as an adult, I love presidential history, and my favorite presidents are like the bad ones. You know why?
Because who cares? Like the good ones are boring.
It's like, oh my gosh, yes, FDR, the new plan, like the new deal. I mean,
fireside chats, we got it.
It's like, oh my gosh, yes, Abraham, like all these, yes, we know they're great, but like, let's talk about Warden B. Harding. Let's talk about Millard Fillmore.
I was thinking of Doc.
Let's talk about Martin Van Buren. Let's talk about James Polk. Like,
wait, why was James Polk bad? I feel like I know this.
James Polk came into like a little bit of, notorious because, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago, they exhumed his body because they thought he had been poisoned. So they wanted to put that matter to rest once and for all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go on.
But I love that. Like, I love like these presidents that just were just a disaster, because it's so interesting. Like, they were presidents of the United States, and if you think about it, we haven't had that many presidents. We
46?
46. Well, really 45.
Oh, that's true. We had one twice.
Which was?
Oh God, wait! I know this and I forgot it. Wait, I'm going to guess it was Grover Cleveland.
Yes, sir. You got it. Grover Cleveland. President twice, non-consecutive. So he's counted twice. Right. So really, we've had 46 presidencies, but 45 presidents. Like, I love it. Like, Warden, B. Harding. Like,
what was he about? What was bad about him?
Well, the thing
before we get into our interview
with Warden G. Harding was that at the time,
because you made a face, that's why I'm asking.
At the time that he was president, he was actually extremely popular, and he died in office. He was extremely popular, and he had a huge approval rating. But after that, he died. There was this whole thing called the Teapot Scandal, the Tea Dome Scandal, which was like a real estate scandal that happened that opened up Pandora's box in terms of the corruption that he was part of.
Oh, he was part of Whitewater?
No, well,
for the time?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's actually considered like the worst president.
Really?
Yeah, he's considered the worst.
Oh, wow.
And Millard Fillmore is pretty low.
I don't even remember he exists.
So if you want to have a cheat sheet in terms of bad presidents, they are usually all the presidents after Abraham Lincoln was killed. So Andrew Johnson, all the way to Theodore Roosevelt. Though all those presidents were terrible because they were Reconstruction presidents. So the Reconstruction era of the United States is like the most complicated time of history, and it's very complicated, and it's you really have to read it and know about it and kind of in the context of what was happening, because it was a Reconstruction era. And then the problem was that there were a lot of backroom deals that were going on. And the North had won, yes, the Civil War, but then the South still had a lot of economic power in terms of, it was where there were crops.
Right.
So there were, that's why like Jim Crow came around. Right, Jim Crow didn't pop up after the Civil War ending for nothing. It came up because the South, like a lot of black
sharecroppers,
a lot of black Americans started getting power. They started having power in businesses and being elected to Congress.
And the South was not about to have that.
And the South was not about to have that. So they used their leverage to be like, wait, no. So, and all of the presidents were very weak, and they allowed things like Jim Crow and things like that to flourish, and they were terrible for the economy. And it's funny because one of the presidents that is on that era of the Reconstruction of the U.S. is Ulysses S. Grant, which we know him so much as this like great, general of the Union, but he was terrible as a president. So it's a very complicated time, the Reconstruction of the U.S. So yeah, that's your cheat sheet. It's like after Andrew Lincoln, Johnson through, Teddy. Teddy was like the one that was like the buck stops here. Like
that's true.
Theodore Roosevelt is one of, I think, whether you love him or hate him, is one of the most fascinating figures in American history.
I would agree.
He really, really is. Because what I've always enjoyed about Theodore Roosevelt, I'm totally geeking out because this is like totally my alley. What I've always enjoyed about him, this is the learn section.
No, clearly
is like the duality of who he was. Like he was a hunter, but he also was a conservationist. Like the reason we have federal parks is because of Teddy Roosevelt. He was also one. I believe he was the first president to invite somebody black officially, like a black person, to the White House.
Oh, wow.
So he was, whether you like him or hate him, interesting character. So yes, I know we gotta go.
No, my old age is creeping up. Like I'm like all hunched over.
So everybody, study the Reconstruction of the U.S.
I'm sorry. It's like bad.
Yeah.
Old age is a bitch.
Yeah. Martin Van Buren. William Henry Harrison.
That's a president?
Yes. Well, actually,
I don't think I've ever heard of him before today. Okay, what did William Harry Houdini? What was his name?
What?
What was his name? William what?
You should know William Henry Harrison.
Why?
Because William Henry Harrison has the shortest presidency in American history.
Oh, that's the one who died.
So William Henry Harrison,
who got the pneumonia?
Or so the story goes.
Okay.
Or so the story goes. William Henry Harrison gave the longest inaugural speech in American history. It went on for like 2.5 hours.
Jesus Christ.
And it was in D.C., in the cold and in the rain. So
Not a great
William
combo.
Henry Harrison caught pneumonia and died 32 years into his presidency.
32 days.
32 days, years. 32 days. In fact, I think that he kind of fell ill. I don't know. I think it was like a week or 10 days after he was inaugurated. And then he was unconscious for the rest of like the 25 days.
No, the consumption.
Yes. So, it's like, I think about like, this poor man went through like the campaign.
Pasó tanto
trabajo to be elected president.
Yes.
I mean, he had to get in a horse and buggy and travel around the country, to like campaign. And like, he died in 32 days. William Henry Harrison.
It just goes to show, don't try
But
anything, kids.
now all of our listeners know who William Henry Harrison is.
There you go. See, I don't know him by name. I just know that we have that's that president who died like after giving this long speech.
Calvin Coolidge? No, yes, maybe.
I know that name.
Okay.
But I don't know. Like, I couldn't tell you anything about him.
Can we talk about vice presidents?
Oh,
for some reason, my favorite vice president is Spiro Agnew.
Me too. It's such a fun name to say. Like, he should be a Hanna-Barbera character.
He was,
Nixon's.
Yes.
Nixon's VP.
First term.
Yeah.
So
Spiro Agnew.
Yeah.
That sounds like a bird that's on the verge of extinction.
the Spiro Agnew.
Yes. Oh my God! Save the Spiro Agnew.
It's functionally extinct. Only available in
available in
zoos.
available in zoos,
Only
like limited
available in
time?
zoos for a limited time. Hi, do you have any of your little wax things from the zoo?
I do not.
Neither do I. But I'm the last time I went
They're probably like $12.
the last time I went to the Metro Zoo, which is not called the Metro Zoo anymore, it's Zoo Miami. Why did they change the name of these things? Like, why? Like, does somebody wake up one day and be like, you know what? Everybody calls it the Metro Zoo. It's known as the Metro Zoo, but we're gonna fuck with people and change the name. Yeah, the Dade County Youth Fair. You know what? No, we want to change our brand, so it's gonna be called the Fair. You know, like, why do they change the name of these things? Like,
things evolve. You know, you gotta get with the times.
I mean, clearly,
You gotta be modern, hip, happening.
it's like, do you think people are not gonna call it Metro Zoo? Like,
Well, I mean, children now won't.
whatever.
They have no, context.
I every now and then still slip out again. Every now and then a Burdines.
Oh my God, all the time.
I'm going to Burdines. Did you go to Burdines?
Like, yes, I'm time traveling.
Yes.
I'm gonna hop in my DeLorean and go to Burdines.
That's Jay Byron.
It sounded stupid in Spanish because it didn't rhyme.
Jay Byron's had so many names. Like, we talk about.
Okay, Jackson Byron.
No, what I remember that as a kid, my parents used to say Jackson Byron.
Right.
But I don't remember it being Jackson Byron. I was too small.
But I'm assuming that's what it started as.
Right, it did.
Then it became Jay Byron.
Then in the 80s, like when we were kids, it was Jay Byron's. Like, Jay Byron's was just shit.
Yeah,
right?
that was. Yeah.
That's where I would go buy my birthday party clothes.
Yes, la ropa buena.
La ropa mejor, you know, or like your picture day clothes.
Yes.
Right?
Then it became Byron's.
Right, and then it became Upton's.
Oh, that's right. I heard
Yes.
Upton's. What a stupid name.
Yes. Well, really, it was Upton's because then what happened was Jay Byron's got bought by the Hudson Corporation, which was of Hudson's, which is a Midwest department store, and then
Similar to what happened with Macy's.
Upton's was like whatever other store they had. Long story, but
Resumida cuenta, they're not around anymore.
yes, and Zare became Ames.
That I remember.
Exciting.
Yes.
But yeah, I remember my parents used to say Jackson Byron, and I'm like, because I don't remember it being called Jackson Byron's, but I remember my parents calling it.
So at some point, it
was.
Right,
it was. So yeah. Just like, do you remember like your parents talking about Jefferson's department store?
No.
Yeah, Jefferson's.
Jefferson, I don't remember.
In Mall of the Americas when it was Midway Malls. Midway Mall.
My mom still calls it Midway Mall.
Midway Mall.
At Midway Mall. I'm like, Mom, it hasn't been Midway Mall in like 40 years.
Probably since like 87, 88. Because I went to the grand opening of Mall of the Americas. You know why? Do you know I went to the grand opening of Mall of the Americas?
Because of Tico.
Okay, listeners, you will totally love this. If you're of a certain age, you will love this. My mom in the late 80s, early 90s was really into silk plants.
Silk plants?
See, Chico.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure I understood you.
Silk plants?
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
about to say that.
Mata artificial,
Yeah, mata artificiale. Well, I mean, wasn't your mom? Your mom had to have been. Your mom.
Well, no, because my parents have green thumbs.
No, but again, in the 80s, it was in. Like, in the late 80s, it was in. Even if you have... My mom has a green thumb, too.
Maybe we did. I don't remember. I genuinely don't recall.
And in when it became Mall of the Americas, they opened up a silk, which was this huge...
Wait. This rings a bell.
Yes. It was by the movie theater. It was this huge store. Like...
It was like a nursery...
Yes, but a fake plant.
But everything was fake.
Yes.
Oh,
I remember
wow.
una malanga inmensa, right? And
I had not thought about this.
And she put it next to her muñeca descarada. Did your mom have that? La muñeca descarada.
I don't think my mother had de República Dominicana.
Yeah.
I don't think my mother had one, but my tias did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Speaking of República Dominicana, the other day. I'm just going to throw her under the bus. It was my mother.
Aww.
The other day, my mom committed like the biggest sin that pisses me off when Cubans or anybody refers to the República Dominicana Santo Domingo.
Oh, okay. She refers to it as Santo Domingo.
Right. Because like if somebody, and we're gonna say Cubans because these are the people around us. If they go to Punta Cana, they'll be like, voy a Santo Domingo. And it's like, no, you're not.
You're going to Punta Cana.
You're going to Punta Cana.
You're literally going to Punta Cana.
And then that's when I had to explain to my mom, I'm like, Santo Domingo es la capital de la República Dominicana. Just like como La Habana es de Cuba, es Santo Domingo es de República Dominicana. She said, ay, no, yo pensaba que todo era Santo Domingo. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
but wait, then what did she think República Dominicana was?
I don't know. I don't know what she thought that was. That's a very good question.
This begs the bigger question.
Right. But you've heard people say, like, they're going to freaking Punta Cana.
Voy a Santo Domingo.
Or they came back from Punta Cana. They're like, estaba en Santo Domingo. I'm like, no, you weren't. You were in Punta Cana. That's like if somebody comes to the United States and they go to Baltimore and they're like, I went to New York. I was in New York.
I don't think it's exactly the same, but...
Okay, Santo Domingo is not the same as Punta Cana.
But I get the train of thought.
It's like, no, I don't, because Santo Domingo...
Oh, you were saying, okay, Punta Cana versus Santo Domingo. I thought you meant Santo Domingo versus saying DR. Sorry.
No, but what is so, it's upsetting but sort of hilarious is that not only do they think that the country is called Santo Domingo, right? But that every place is called Santo Domingo. Because let's say that for shits and giggles, you really think the country is called Santo Domingo.
Fine.
But you went to Punta Cana. So it's like, okay, I went to Punta Cana in Santo Domingo. But no, they go to Punta Cana and they start talking to you about all the lobster they ate in Santo Domingo. And I'm like, no, get it right. It bothers me, but I find it hilarious at the same time. And this only happens with the Dominican Republic. It doesn't happen with anything else.
Yeah, they never say like, fui a San Juan.
Right.
They'll be like, fui a Puerto Rico.
Or they'll tell you, they'll tell you about all the cities in Venezuela.
Right.
Pero freaking the Dominican Republic,
Santo Domingo is
which
DR.
is a Caribbean nation,
That's
just
it.
like you are, that is right there,
Más cerca no puede estar.
It's like, no, sí. Yo fui a Punta Cana, pero no, yo fui a Santo Domingo. And it's like, you don't even to fly into Santo Domingo.
Wait, where do you fly into?
Punta Cana.
Oh.
You don't think that Punta Cana has its own airport?
No. Sorry. I've been to Punta Cana airport. I thought you meant that Santo Domingo doesn't have an airport. That's why.
Of course it has an airport.
No, that's why I was like, wait a minute.
And I'm sure that when they fly into, Punta Cana International Airport, they think they're flying into Santo Domingo.
I can't process all of this right now.
But you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. I've been to Santo Domingo. It's like, no.
It's not.
And every time they come back from Punta Cana, they talk to you about how much they ate.
Well, because it's a little impressive.
No, I know. But it's like, Punta Cana is so beautiful. There's so many things to do there. And
they don't. Right, they don't tell you about the activities on the beach. Or it's like,
no,
me jalté la panza.
Estaba ahí en la playa y me traían las langostas, and I'm like, okay, Jabba the Hutt, like. Mind you, you could do that anywhere, but it's like...
Not for that price.
Well, that's true.
Not for that price, I guarantee you.
No, that's true.
Ay, Dios mío. Well, I'm thirsty.
Well, before we quench your thirst,
okay.
Did you hear who's leaving The View?
Oh, yes, Ms. McCain.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to replace her?
I have no idea. I'm upset about Meaghan leaving The View.
Are you really? Is it because she's going back to her home planet, Naboo?
I love when they call her the Princess of Arizona. I you know what, I like her. I think that she can come across a little entitled sometimes and a little spoiled, but I do think that she is a reasonable voice of the right and of conservatives, and I think that she's a very reasonable and rational person, and I think that you kind of need her when you're having a show
a discourse
of political views. And she's leaving because the show, like all shows, they were filming from remote, and she, after, I guess, I don't know if this was before, like right when coronavirus started, she moved to DC. She had her daughter, and now when the show comes back next in the fall for the next season, they're going to be back in New York, and apparently she doesn't want to move back to New York, so she's in the show. So no, I have no idea who they're going to who's going to be the conservative.
I can't imagine. I can't even think.
Voice. And you know what, it's a bit of a difficult casting, because you want someone obviously that's conservative and going to talk about conservative values, but you also don't want somebody who's going to be fighting with Joy Behar all the time,
right?
Because I have to tell you that even Meaghan, when she would fight with Joy, like the first 30 seconds of it are hilarious, but then after a while it's very uncomfortable. It's
just move on.
Yeah. So my moment. So, okay, now we're thirsty.
I'm so sleepy.
We're recording later than usual. If you want, I could continue with my presidential discourse.
I don't think that's going to help the sleepiness.
Yeah, no. Because I could talk about presidents in American history for quite some time.
I don't know, but I think by the time you get to Taft, I'll be asleep.
By Taft? The president after... Roosevelt?
Sure.
Yes. It's the first president to have a telephone in the White House.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did Alexander Graham Bell bring it to him personally?
Yes. Well, actually...
Hello, President Taft.
Wait. Do you want a really interesting little tidbit? The White House was one of the first places to have a phone number.
Was it 1?
It was a 1.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I guess when you're the first.
That's so can you imagine just dialing 1?
And they didn't have area codes back then either.
Huh?
They didn't even have area codes back then.
No.
I know, but you know what? They would dial 1, and somebody would dial very quickly, and they'd be like, "Hello," be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted 11."
No. Yeah.
Sorry, I think you wanted 2.
Yeah. But think about that. It's so incomplete 1.
And then there was that weird period with telephones where people would call me like, "Hi, can you connect me to 1242B or some bullshit like that?" And it's what was that about?
With the little switchboards?
Yeah, why were we throwing numbers and letters together?
Well, that was before the telephone grid.
Yeah, but why? They ran out of numbers?
That actually, you got me there. I don't know too much about the history, the evolution of the telecommunications in the U.S. I do know that AT&T is a very old company.
Oh, yeah.
They've been around since the 1800s.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know. I thought AT&T came out in 1966, but it didn't.
I'm trying to... I felt like I knew something, but I don't.
And I love with all these older presidents, it was the Whig Party.
Okay, I love the Whig Party.
Yeah, the Federalists.
Yeah, they made those papers.
Yeah. And then what would tickle a lot of people's pickles when they find out that it was the Republican Party, that both the Democrats and Republicans at one point were a party, a party.
Chew on that.
Yeah, vite. That's why you got to know your history.
Look how things change.
But yeah, I could go on about presidents forever.
I know. Let's do the last sodas.
Wow.
Because I'm
bordering
on delirious.
I just want to thank our listeners if you've made it this far, because usually for our shows we're very prepared and we're very whatever, and not that we weren't prepared for this one, but different things happened.
Today the day got away from us.
Yes, we were all both very busy on other matters, and we are recording at a much later time than usual. Let's just say that if you are the type of listener that listens to our podcast first thing on Friday mornings, it will probably be in a couple of hours. So
you're welcome.
You're welcome. You wanted it fresh?
You can't get fresher than this.
As Darwin, our boy Darwin says, fresh or fresh.
Fresh or fresh. So, you can't get any fresher.
Give your last soda.
Oh my goodness. My last soda, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. So actually this week I binged a podcast called You Must Remember This. Mm-hmm. But more specifically, they did a series within the show called Gossip Girls, and it told the story of basically the first
Maria
Hollywood.
Conchita Alonso.
Yes, all about her. No, it was about the first Hollywood gossip columnists, Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper, and it was 9 parts.
Heather Hopper?
Hedda Hopper.
Wait, who's Heather Hopper? Heather Hopper
Was from the
Good Morning Miss Bliss.
Yes.
Wow. It's amazing that we know that.
And just pulled it out of your ass. But no, it was a 9-part story. I binged it in like 2 days. It was just really interesting to see like the evolution of the whole Hollywood gossip era, and more than that, like Hedda Hopper at one point was even in like the pocket of Hoover, like J. Edgar Hoover, and they basically conspired to.
Or maybe Herbert Hoover?
No, it was J. Edgar.
Like Herbert Hoover, the president?
No, J. Edgar, the cross-dresser from the FBI.
No, I was trying to pull in presidents.
I know, but I'm trying to stay on course a little bit. But they conspired basically to get Charlie Chaplin out of the country, and so it's very interesting how it ties into like a lot of historical moments, like McCarthyism and all that wonderful jazz. So
It's American history.
It
4th
is
of July.
American
Apple
history,
pie.
exactly.
Donuts. Well, that's great. That's wonderful. So I'm actually giving my last
Did you
soda
just throw
to.
donuts in there for no reason?
Yeah, I mean donuts are American. Are they?
Aren't they Belgian?
They may have. I could talk to you about all these presidents, but I don't know the origin of the donuts. They may come originally from Belgium, but let me tell you something. A donut stuffed with cream, with buttercream, then topped with chocolate is an American thing.
That is very true.
That is,
That is extremely true. You don't get more American than that.
You don't get more American than that. A Boston cream pie donut,
I mean, for God's sake, we put a burger between 2 donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not doing that in Belgium.
No.
I can assure you that.
No.
So, well, my actual last soda goes out to Cuban Guys.
Cuban Guys. Okay.
Yes, Cuban Guys, the restaurant chain.
Not all of the Cuban guys.
Not all the
in
Cuban
the world.
guys. Yes, to us.
To us included.
No, seriously, I give it out to the Cuban Guys because the Cuban Guys, their truck was actually this week at the
right.
collapse site, and they were giving free food to the first responders and to the volunteers and just to everybody there. And, I think it's very important, obviously, when community partners and such a, thing like Cuban Guys, that it's very local and
Right.
it's buy Miami.
Right, buy us for us type of thing,
yeah. So they showed up in a time that they were very much needed, which they've done before. They've done in other events before, but specifically in this event, they showed up, and that's very important because our community right now is going through, one of the most tragic, just awful events that I can think of, at least locally, that we have gone through. I think that the only thing that I can think of locally is maybe Hurricane Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, but that was also a broader, it affected more people directly.
Right. Well, yes, it obviously did affect more people, but in terms of like a community that
came together,
because I mean, this is just awful. So, my hats off to them, or soda to them, for really showing up and helping people in such a terrible time, terrible situation. So, yeah.
I think that brings us to the end of the show. I think I see the sun rising.
Yeah. Who's your favorite president?
My favorite president?
Yeah. Please don't tell me it's Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan's stock has...
I don't know. I don't think I've given it much thought in terms of who's my favorite
You have never thought about who your favorite president is? Because this is something I think about all the time.
Really?
Did we just meet?
That's true. We literally just had like a 30-minute conversation about this. I don't know that I have a favorite president. I mean, I like Grover's name. He's one of my favorite Muppets.
That is your favorite president. Good grief. I have a couple before we go. Theodore Roosevelt is up there.
Wait, you know what? I like FDR because nobody knew he was in the wheelchair.
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly the most accomplished president
Yeah,
in terms
he's a
of
lot.
turning
Yeah.
things around. I really like Lyndon B. Johnson
Okay.
because I think that he had such a complicated presidency. So really, really, really quick, we know that, as we know, he became president after John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
Right.
So he finished Kennedy's term. Then he ran, won. But then after his first full term, he didn't run for re-election. And he could have.
He was done.
He could have, because he would have technically done 3 terms, but he could have. The thing with him was that he has such a complicated legacy, because he was the one who sort of, in terms of the executive branch, pioneered civil rights in the U.S.
Oh.
Yeah, it was him. So it what he did for civil rights at the time, we had the right president at the right time to put forward civil rights in the 60s. But then, so obviously that's a huge achievement and a huge win for him in terms of his legacy. But then he really fucked up Vietnam. And he was very overwhelmed with Vietnam. And Vietnam is a reason he decided not to run again. So it's like a very complicated legacy. I also like Harry Truman. Harry Truman was the first president to put in, I believe in his executive order, to desegregate the military. So there's been a lot of very, because I think that a presidency, we all have our opinions and we all have our views, but I think that a presidency is really judged by, did this person stand up for the challenges you had, the unique challenges you had at that place in time.
Right.
Whatever was thrown at us as a country, did this president rise to the occasion and do what they needed to do? I think that's how you really capture a presidential legacy. And, a lot of them have, and a lot of them have not. So,
such as it is.
We will leave it at that. So, well, on that note, we hope everybody listened, laughed, and learned. And thank you so much for sticking with us in this unusual episode.
I halfway through, I just got tired. I'm sorry, guys.
Remember to grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and then for you, your cafecito.
I need 2 of them.
And we will catch you next week. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great weekend. Have a great 4th of July weekend. 245 years. Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday.
Bye.
Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.